Alright, so this is the first Apple of Eden that I've done. This one I had nicely signed by Chris Nolan. Voices of Edward Kenway and Desmond. So this one I had done is the one model. Now the way that I did it is made it out of translucent PLA plus, and I gold foiled it to give a nice finish. I use translucent instead of white so that it diffuses light the way that I like it, to show off the different effects. And I'll just show you what it has on the inside. And on the inside, this is my Apple core. I've got a microcontroller, 17 neopixels or LEDs, a power source sitting at the bottom, and a capacitive touch at the bottom. Brass capacitive, that little brass grub nut is connected to a capacitive touch, so that when you touch the brass nut there's no push buttons, it lights up the lighting. I use neopixels because it's much better lighting than the props that they sell in the shops, and I can set it to whatever colors and effects that I want. It's got a recharger on top and the microcontroller at the bottom that can just recharge. That's my Apple core. I'll just plug it in. There you go, 17 instead of the 4. I've got 2 meteor effects followed by a glowing effect. It's set to switch off if it doesn't detect the touch. In this case it's picking up capacitance some way. Voila, I'll show you how it looks on the inside. There you go. You find if you use your white PLA, it's more consistent color glowing at the same time. In this way, adds a bit of character by different parts of it lighting up. Looks pretty good. It's got a lithium polymer battery that's rechargeable as well. And with the lights out, of course. If you want, you can always just stuck your own Christmas lighting effects in there. Anyway, so that's my version 1. Now for version 2, I went for this traditional one that's used. It's got the shape on it. This is how it looks in terms of as PLA, translucent PLA. Now, some things in the way that I print my prints. I print it so that there's always a flat bottom sitting on the print bed. This I print into 2 halves, and then I print the top separately so that it has a nice rounded top. I did the model over because I wanted more symmetrical round shapes instead of what I'd seen online. See, so it doesn't have any lines running over the top. I just modified so it's one solid piece, and that'll clip onto the core. There's a few pieces that puts it all together. That's the core where the electronics fits into. Like I said, if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. Electronics isn't that expensive, but I'll prefer to have proper lighting. And that fits nicely, fits a microcontroller as well as a power charger. So you don't have to take the whole thing apart. That's the lid that will fit on. Fits in, it twists on, fits under the core. That's the cover. Now, like I said, I printed these into 2 halves and then glued them together using just super glue. Works just fine. The bottom has to go. Now this is just very caution. You have to slip the bottom inside of the 2 halves before you glue the 2 halves together. This one fits over there, fits the bottom over there, and I'll show you why I need to finish this before you glue them together, otherwise that won't fit in. Anyways. Now, here's an example of how it looks after the prints. Right, so I print half on the print bed, in the 3D print bed. It comes with support, and print it with a brim so it doesn't lift off. And that way it has a secure base that it builds the print on top of, and it has a nice clean finish down. This is printed at 1.2mm layer height on a Prusa MK3. Put them off. There you go. And as you can see, that's the support for the middle of the dome, and this support over here is for this top lip. That all comes off. Now, this is the other reason why it needs a bit of finishing. Of course, I added a bit of clearance so that the bottom and top can fit in properly. Despite me adding that, you can still see there's a little bit of finishing over here that needs to come off. So what I do is I have my set of files that I use just to file it down slightly so that everything can fit in neatly. All of the supporting structures come off. Loose. Don't break that. Anyways, I'll just show you. So if you look very closely, you can see just towards the top of the dome over there, you've got this little bit over there. And that has to be filed so that this can be nice and round. Otherwise, you're not going to get the bottom fitting in and the top won't fit in properly. So it still needs a little bit of filing just to clean that up nicely. So what I do is I print all the pieces out. Once I've printed all the pieces out, I then trim off the brim which got left behind in the print bed, and then I file this off so that it fits in neatly. After I file this off neatly, I put the bottom on the inside and then glue the two halves together. See, so the seam itself falls into this groove over here, so you don't see it much, even though I still do sand it lightly. There you go, fits into that. Just to show how it looks. Voila. That's the top that fits into there. And that piece fits on top of that. Voila. And as you can see, obviously, it still needs a little bit of filing so that everything can fit in neatly. And this, you can either make the clearance really big, in which case you will have a lot of play, or you make the clearance small and it needs a little bit of filing just to make everything fit neatly. The other part is like that's the top that fits onto the cap, and I just filed it slightly just so that it fits nice and flush and you don't see any untidy gaps in there. There you go. Hello. So what I'm doing next is just taking my little files, my finishing files, and just filing everything so that it all fits neatly together. The same with the bottom, even though the bottom's on the inside, as you can see, this won't fit out, it won't come out at all. But I still have to file this bottom section so that this bottom can be glued in. And all that I'm using is just trusty old super glue. Works perfectly on PLA. Wouldn't use it on ABS, don't trust it on ABS. It's perfectly on PLA. Alright, so what I'll do next is just file this all up and I'll show you how it looks when it all fits together before I glue it. Okay, so this is the Apple core. It's just two halves. It allows for power charger, a USB power charger, so I don't have to take the whole thing apart. The microcontroller that fits over there. There's space for the electronics and the wiring to run in there. Now I added this extra space in here when there was still a USB charger, so it doesn't actually be used for anything. That's just for the reset button. Now what I've got in here is 2.5mm screws, hex screws. These are the hex screws over here. It's 2.5mm. What I do is you can turn it in, but just so to be safe, I actually tap the lower end at 2mm. So 2mm tap for the lower end, and then I turn in the 2.5mm. For the top section, I drill a 3mm clearance hole. So even though it's 2mm big, I drill 3mm so that way this top threaded section doesn't catch over here. Pass it through there and just ties into the bottom. Then you've got a solid core. Now in that solid core, that is the cap that fits onto it. And it fits on there. You'll find that there are 3 holes in there. Each hole is 2 millimeters big, and that can be glued on. I just like to screw it on, it just looks good. And what I use is grub nuts. This is 2 millimeters big, and I use a 2 millimeter grub nut. There's 3 of them that holds it in place, and the cap itself just fits on. You'll find that on this core there are 3 notches, 3 knobs, and this cap over here fits onto the apple core like that. First to knock that on there, there's a few notches on there, and that just fits into the top, and that fits on top of the apple. That on there, that section goes on here. You need to get your hands through it. It fits all the way down. And as you can see, that fits onto the top, clips into the top and then twists, and that fits. That's the cap that fits on there. And this lifts off if you need to access the charger and charge it. Voila, and that's the apple core. That's the cap. I've got 2.5mm grub screws to into there, and that'll tighten onto the apple. As I said, I just mount that onto the lid, onto the top of the core, just to see exactly where this needs to be adjusted to. Take it from there. There you go. So the lid just clips on there, and the screws just tighten to adjust exactly where the core is. Mind you, I'm putting this all together even though electronics still needs to be added. Just for the sake of assembling it all as is, I'm doing it now. And you can see I've just filed this neatly, so that's all neatly glued on. That's the bottom. What I do is I just drop a bit of super glue into that groove and just let it roll around. And then I drop it in the bottom over there as well. And just roll them around. And voila. There you go. So all I have to do now is just file and neaten up these edges so that my core can fit in like that. Like that. So the core will fit in there, and as you can see it needs a little bit of filing so it can fit in neatly. And that's the core goes in. And that's my next task. Just to clean up the lid. And there you have it. To show, that's the top cap. Left and right glued. And the bottom, only all I left there was just for the capacitive touch, or for brass grub nut to, that'll fall flat. You can see, that's it, and that's translucent PLA. Next video will be lighting, and the last one will be how I gold foil to give that effect. Voila. Thanks for watching.